Hello friends, welcome to SQL Server tutorial. In this video, we will learn about the resource pool, which is a component in resource governor. The physical resources like memory and CPU collected together for easy management is called resource pool. So you can have a resource pool with a requested amount of memory and suggestion for CPU usage. So we know that operating system will do CPU time slicing, and in that CPU time slicing it will give something to SQL Server, and on that sliced part you can claim for 10% of CPU and some memory and name it as a specific pool, say P1. So physical resources like memory and CPU collected together for easy management is called resource pool. So one can create a 64, here we are talking about P1, right? That's one resource pool. One can create 64 such resource pool, and it may change in future when hardware capability changes. That means the 64 may go even 128. More number of resource pools. There are two built-in resource pools. One is system, or the pool is also called internal. So this is used by SQL Server database engine. So that's why the name is internal. So we don't need to touch it. Anyhow, some people can tweak that also. But if you see the overall picture of the database, you can create your own resource pool and calculate the CPU and memory based on a different workload, and keeping that in memory you can create different versions of your own resource pool instead of touching the system or internal resource pool. So the other one is the default resource pool. So the default resource pool is the leftover of resource from internal or system and user defined. So if you see the chunk here, resource pool, by default you will be having system resource pool and default resource pool and some user defined resource pool like P1, P2, P3, P4. So there will be here, let's just talk about only the memory share. So this is the total available memory in the operating system, and here we'll be claiming some and keeping it here in system, and some you are keeping it in different resource pools, and the leftover will go and stay on default pool. So it is the leftover resource from internal and user defined. When a workload is not in any group, so workload in the sense we already talked about, it may be a task that's tied to a workstation or a specific user. For simplicity reason, let's consider the login SA. The workload SA, if it is not assigned to any of these workload and to internal, then the default home for this SA is the default pool. That means it will take CPU and memory from this default resource pool. But if you assign this to a specific memory pool, say P2, when SA is connected, it will take the resource from P2. I mean the memory as well as CPU. Resource pool can take minimum as well as maximum value when the pool is constructed. So the minimum and maximum, it can be for any resource. It can be for CPU or memory. For example, CPU resource minimum 10% and maximum 25%. Let's assume that that's how you are creating your resource pool P1. Here we are talking about only CPU. So minimum 10%, and it can extend up to 25%. But this is the minimum claim we are giving, minimum 25%, and on need basis it may still extend up to 25% in terms of CPU. So resource pool can take minimum as well as maximum value. For example, CPU resource minimum 10%, maximum 25, means minimum 10% of CPU time is requested by the workload. Say if SA is connected, 10% CPU is guaranteed, and if SA is doing some heavy duty task, then on need basis some more resource will be given to SA. Also here, when we say 25%, the restriction also placed here. So the resource pool will govern over usage of resources. So if some heavy work is going, it gives a maximum of 25% of CPU. That way it will keep the server in a stable state, not in a overloaded state or hanged state. The sum of minimum of all resource pool should not exceed 100%. Say for example, CPU, you are giving 10% minimum in one resource pool, P1, P2, 20, and if you sum up all system default, all the resource pool, the sum should not exceed 100%, especially when you are setting the minimum, because minimum is guaranteed, right? So if it exceeds 100%, then you are overloading the CPU, or memory will not be available, right? So sorry, CPU will not be available when we are talking about CPU here. So always make sure when you are setting the minimum for memory as a resource or CPU as a resource, make sure it will not exceed 100% when you sum up the minimum requirement for all your resource pool, P1, P2 to Pn. That's all here in this video. There is no demo here. Thank you for watching. Bye.